So hello and thank you for joining our talk today. We know you had the choice which talk to choose, and you chose us. So I want to thank you so much. This means a lot for us. And before we start, I want to ask you, have you ever experienced UFO in your life? Please write that in the chat. Don't just write yes. I want to know the details. I want to know what happened, how it happened. I cannot really see your chat. I can see it on my phone, but I really hope to see a lot of messages of UFO enthusiasts. Yeah, the click. Yeah. So my name is Vitalija, and I am a data engineer in Amesto NextBridge, which is a data and AI consultancy based in Oslo, where we deliver everything from data platforms to AI solutions. During my working times, I had the possibility to work with Azure Data Factory, Databricks, and Power BI. I'm also a UFO enthusiast, and I am writing my PhD in evolutionary ecology, where I focus on contemporary evolution. Currently, I am learning Python whispering, but I know a thing or two in R or SQL. I grew up watching X-Files, and this is such an iconic moment for me in the 90s. Please, someone write that they have also watched X-Files, because when I asked Sai, have you ever watched the X-Files? And he's like, what is the X-Files? And then I realized that I'm getting quite old. I'm a dog mom. I have an Airedale Terrier who's a very naughty dog. He's 3 years old. I'm amateurly interested in astronomy. I have even been a volunteer in a Starmus festival, which is the biggest space festival in the world. And this is my first experience of UFO. But you know, the time is young. Maybe ever again it will happen again. There are so many places you can find me. Is Twitter, LinkedIn, and my email. On Twitter I'm not so active. On LinkedIn I check daily, and the email I check daily. Feel free to connect.
All right. Thank you, Vitalija. This is Sai. I'm a data engineer and also a UFO enthusiast. And I work in the same company as Vitalija is working, which is Amesto NextBridge. And we are in the business analytics department. I have a master's in business analytics, and primarily I focus on Power BI, Databricks, and Azure technologies. And currently, I'm very much interested in AI and Power BI. In free time, I usually spend my time in outdoors or like mostly in the nature. Uh, maybe looking at the UFOs, but never had the chance. And the other times, I'll be you can find me in the gym or at the board games, mostly training games or fitness. And you can find our social media here. So feel free to just scan and connect us on LinkedIn. Yeah. And moving forward, we have the session ready for us. UFO Unearthed. Yeah. Yeah, so we have the session ready for us, and Vitalija is going to take over from here. Yeah, looking forward to that.
So to someone, I saw that one person has wrote the UFO experience in the chat. I just want to tell you that there is a place in the internet you can report your experience. So this is the National UFO Reporting Center. I found it while I was down in the rabbit hole in the internet, where I found this website. And actually here you can file an official report where and how you have seen a UFO. You can also tick a box if you were abducted by aliens. And there is also a data bank, which I strongly recommend you to research. So if you go to the data bank, you can actually see every single UFO report person has filed, and that also can contain pictures and videos. It is amazing. I really recommend you to do that. And coincidentally, once upon a time, I was preparing for a Databricks data engineering exam, and because I wanted to take a certificate. And for me, I'm generally quite stupid. I don't learn from watching the videos. So for me to really learn something, for example, if I watched a video where it's like a cardiac surgery, I might not be able to do the cardiac surgery. So for me to actually learn, I have to do the thing and play around, fail, learn from the errors. So I was looking for a data set which can allow me to do some play around in the Databricks to really learn how the platform works. And I found that in the Microsoft documentation, the National UFO Research Center dataset is actually the officially suggested dataset. But during that time, from that time when we found it to the time now, actually the licensing has changed and it's not freely available anymore. But we still have the dataset by Timothy Renner. Thank you for that. But for someone else in this chat who would like to use this UFO data, you're strongly advised to request this dataset from the National UFO Center. So of course we have done it. And the reply was just mind-blowing. So I have wrote an email, apparently, as you can see, 5 days ago, to the CTO of the National UFO Reporting Center, Christian Stepien. And the answer was that you can not only use the dataset in this presentation as long as you credit that this is our dataset, but also we want to see it if it's possible. So I want to say welcome for every UFO enthusiast in this talk. We are so happy to have you here. And thank you so much for allowing us to use your data, because without the data, none of it would be possible. So going back to the official UFO data. So here is the downloaded dataset in a CSV format. And I have heard previously the saying that whatever you do to the data, it will anyway end up in Excel. And this time it also has not disappointed us. So we can see that here is just me scrolling down, but we can see that we have extensive amounts of UFO observations, and each row is a unique UFO observation. I will just check the comments in case someone has something to say. Yeah, and here is a question, okay? You have the data, right? And then what's in it with the data if you don't do anything with that data? So just for the clarification, after this point, we will call the UFO observations aliens. That is not factually correct. That is UFO observations, but making it in one word makes it much simpler for everyone. So it's not factually correct, but we're using it anyway. So first, we will import the UFO observations to the data lake, which will serve as a storage location. Then we will mount the data lake to Azure Databricks, where we will import the data as it is to a layer called raw aliens. This layer will serve as a source for a medallion of aliens. And we will use Databricks as a transformation tool to move through the medallion architecture, and we will move through the layers of bronze, silver, and gold, incrementally and progressively improving the structure and quality of the UFO data. We will enrich the data with the visualizations with generative AI, and then at the very end, we will reveal the insights in the Power BI. So what actually is a data lake? Data lake is generally a large storage service. It can take data in various formats, both structured, unstructured, raw streams, through many different ingestion tools. It supports many analysis tools, and it can keep data in a raw format. We are getting for the time for the first demo. I'm very proud of this animation, by the way. Yes, so now we are in the data lake. I have already created a container called aliens. And here we will upload the file here. You're not seeing the file because it's my private containers, right? And I'm uploading the new fork data. So at this point is in CSV, but of course you can import it in the Excel as well if that is of your choice. Right, and we can see that, yeah, it is importing. We'll just wait a little bit. Yes, and you can see that we have successfully imported the new fork reports to the data lake. Okay, aliens are in the lake. What now? So in fact, there are many ways to connect data lake to Databricks. In this case, we are playing with aliens. It's not a production environment. We basically have many rules which you might not have later in the future. Time for a second demo, importing CSV from the data lake to the Databricks. So here we are in my Databricks clusters. I'm just reusing a cluster I already had. So here it's running. I'm also enabling my serverless cluster. We're going to the workspace, and here we are opening the first notebook. And here I have actually already mounted the data lake, but I'm not showing to you because I'm not allowed in this secret and you'll not see it. But I'm importing the pandas, specifying the file path called new fork reports. And then I'm converting the panda data frame to the Spark data frame, and I'm creating a table in the Unity catalog where I have already created a catalog aliens and schema aliens. Here I'm actually picking the catalog and the schema, and I'm doing a select from aliens raw. I actually want to run all of it, not just files and records, so we see how the import is happening. Like, is it imported well? Because with the CSV, sometimes you can have the problem with the commas and how it's separated. But now we have imported all of it and it looks fine. I'm happy. We can move on. Once the data is actually now in the Databricks, we will want to use it for the medallion architecture. And generally, the question is, what is a medallion architecture? And the medallion architecture is a data design pattern used to logically organize data in a lakehouse. Generally, the goal is to incrementally improve the quality of the data as it flows through the layers of bronze, silver, and gold. And in this specific architecture, we can see that there is batch or streaming data coming in and being as raw in bronze, raw integration in bronze. Then we can see that in the silver it's cleaned and augmented. And in the gold, we can see that it's getting prepared for BI and machine learning. In our alien case, we will use a bit shifted medallion architecture for our business case. So actually raw aliens is going to be a source without any implementations. But to our bronze layer, the data is coming to be a bit refined. And in silver layer, we will clean and refine it even more. And in the gold layer, we will prepare it to meet the business requirements. Here is the medallion architecture in our architecture overview. So then it is a question, what is actually bronze in our business logic? So in our case, in bronze, we actually add a filter to the raw data. Because if there is no location, I don't believe you have observed an alien. So basically, it's kind of a way that if you would have a business key which is null in your case, then maybe it serves no purpose in your later lake house. So now we are getting ready for a demo. Alien of aliens, raw to bronze. So now we are back in my workspace and we are picking up a notebook. We can see that I'm using the serverless cluster. And here, this is just a simple select statement. I'm using create or replace table while specifying the catalog and the schema. I'm adding a comment because later I will want to know what is actually done in my bronze table, and we filter as adjusted, except there is no location, no alien. So this is just a simple select where country is not null and city is not null. Yeah, we can see it run. We can see that we have aliens raw in the Unity catalog. Then we go to the SQL editor. We choose the aliens. We can see that the bronze table has already been created. We select the schema and the catalog, and we just run a simple select statement from aliens bronze. Here we can run a fast and it's fine. Yeah, so we can see that actually the bronze layer is basically the raw layer with a filter on it, right? And then I'm the queen of double checking. So I always want to double check things. There are rumors at my work, how many times can you double check? Many, you can double check many times. Yeah, we can see that it works fine. And now that we are actually done with bronze, we will want to move to the silver layer. And then in our case, what is silver in our business logic? So in our concrete business case, we are renaming the column names from the raw format to a new format containing technical explanations. So basically, I want to know that if the column is ID, that it has ID at the very end. So it's easier for me later to do a lookup or something else. Cleaning data. And I have noticed while looking at this dataset that there are some cases where it's hoax. And you know, I grew up in Eastern Europe. No one is going to trick me. I don't want hoax aliens. I want only real aliens. And also, if there is no time, there is no alien. So if you don't remember when you saw a UFO, you haven't seen it. Demo time. Bronze to silver. Now we are back to the Databricks workspace and we are picking up a notebook called Alien Silver. We can see that I'm specifying where I want to be creating this table. I'm adding a comment that I take my job very seriously. I want only real aliens. And this is just a simple select statement. Their summary is not like hoax and the datetime is not null. I'm also changing one column name because I think it's easier for me to say that aliens description as text than aliens text. Yeah, and we can see that in our alien schema, we already have aliens bronze and aliens raw. Yeah, we run it. Then we go to our SQL editor and check what is actually in our lakehouse. Yeah, so we can see that we have already created an alien silver table. We do a simple select from alien silver. You can do it in that way. Looks fine to me. The column names are as I want. Then now that we are actually done with silver, we will want to eventually move to the gold layer. And the question is, what is actually gold in our business logic? So in our case, we want to get ready to move to the Power BI. We add a new aggregation, shape, and duration because for some reason for our client it's very important to have this aggregation, like 15 minutes circle is apparently very big in that business. And we join the AI and we add new names, and our client is very particular what column names they want. And here we will implement the column names. So now we will move to the next demo. And here we choose the notebook Aliens Gold. And as you can see, I'm checking the catalog and we can see that we have raw, silver, and bronze. I have the wrong cluster attached, so I'm changing the cluster at the top. And here I'm actually specifying which specific delta table I want, because I want that my names of the columns contains spaces, and the specific delta version allows it. And here I'm again just renaming the columns and adding one aggregation, which will be later used in the reporting. Yes, so as you can see, it has succeeded, and we move to the SQL editor. Yeah, so now we will look at the Unity catalog and we can do a select on Aliens Gold. 1000 is also enough for this case. And we can see that the data seems to be ready for our insights. And we can see that the column names are as I want and that they are a tiny bit different from silver. And of course, when you have already done the full medallion, the beauty of our job is to automate as many things as possible. So a part of my job is making less job for some people and making more job for other people. So I'm going to make a job. So we are back at the Databricks workspace. And then we go to the workflows. Yeah. We will wait a bit till I go to the workflows. Yes, here we go. I create a job. And here I will call my job in any name I want, which nowadays is going to be the Medallion of Aliens. And I want to specify what tasks do I want. So first is going to be Bronze Aliens. And I will select which notebook I'm interested in making a job. At this point, the cluster I'm ignoring. Okay. So I'm creating the job. And then I add a new task, which is another notebook where I want to make it a name, which is going to be Silver Aliens. And then I want to specify the path, which is in my workspace. Confirm. And then that depends on Bronze Aliens. And in this case, I want that Bronze Aliens succeed up to my Silver Aliens are going to be running. The next task is Gold Aliens. And here I'm also scheduling the notebook. And it depends on the Silver Aliens. And also I want the Silver Aliens to succeed before this is running. I have this compute attached, so I'm going to just make a new job cluster. Okay, this certain cluster I will just rename Alien Job Cluster. And I'm going to just scale it down a bit. Because we had the quota, Azure quota, and here you can update every job to have this specific cluster. And for many people, probably it's interesting, how do you schedule your job to run? So I'm scheduling here the job to run every day at 9 o'clock. And right now I'm interested, will my job succeed? So I triggered the run, and then I can go to the runs and see how it's running. I'm actually not gonna hold you, and we are not gonna wait 4 minutes until it runs. So you can see it succeeded. And then the Sai will take over.
Thank you, Vitalija. All right, so now is the time where the AI joins the medallion of aliens. Right. So now we have the medallion architecture of the aliens data, and then the AI joins it. And the first thing that we're gonna use is which type of AI. So here we are using generative AI, and as most of you all have already known about the generative AI and open AI, but I'm just going to give a short intro what exactly it is. So generative AI, it's a subset of artificial intelligence where you can where we can generate different forms of data such as images, text, music, and unlike the traditional AI systems, it can provide the original and creative content as well. And as part of this project, we will be using the open AI models, which will be used for generating the natural language and images. So there are multiple services that offer generative AI products, but here we will be focusing on Microsoft Azure AI services, and it offers various or different type of services, which can be a vision service, which can be a cognitive search, which can be a language or a decision. So there are like different types of Azure AI services, but right now we will be using the Azure Open AI service, and the Open AI models will be the collection of language and images that we will be using. And the reason why we have to use Azure OpenAI service when it is different from the normal chat GPT, it is because the chat GPT, whatever the prompts that we use, those will be used for training the model. But whereas the Azure OpenAI service, whatever the prompts or the text that we'll be using, that will be inside the Azure environment itself. So we will also take a quick look on how we create the Azure OpenAI environment and what are the requirements for that. But before that, just to get a brief intro of what exactly the Azure OpenAI workload supports and what are we going to use out of it. So the OpenAI supports Azure OpenAI supports currently 5 types of workload supports. The first one is generating natural language, text completion, generating code, where we can use the GitHub Copilot. It's also part of the generating code workloads. And then the embeddings to search, classify, and compare text, where we will be using this particular workload support on a data set to run some vector search or basically to find something valuable insights from inside the data. And generating images as, for example, like Midjourney or DALL-E, this type of services where we can use to generate and edit images using AI. And as part of this project, we will be using these models to generate the natural language, which is GPT-4, GPT 3.5 Turbo, which we can use to generate the natural language, and DALL-E 3 model, which we will be using to generate the UFO AI images. Yeah. So it's a short demo time on how the AI joins the medallion of aliens, and let's look at how the Azure OpenAI support setup has to be done. So here I am in my Azure portal, looking for my OpenAI Azure service. And yeah, here we have the Azure OpenAI. And one of the important things is to make sure which region we are creating this Azure OpenAI service, because not every region does support all the models. For example, in this case, we will be using the Sweden Central, because that is the region which one of the regions which supports the DALE E3 model, which we will be using further for generating images. And yeah, we continue with creating the resource. And once the resource is deployed to the Azure portal, then there are multiple ways to look at the API keys, which we will be further using to develop the code for it. The first option is we can use it in the resource management. Of course, I'm not going to show the key here, but the other option is to open the Azure AI Studio that is here. And once we are in the Azure AI Studio, when we try to go to the playground, it shows that there are no deployments found. And for that, we have to actually create or we have to deploy the models. And in this case, we will be using the DALE E3 model, which we will use for the image generation, and GPT 3.5 Turbo, which we will be using for the text or the natural language processing. And the other one that we will not use in the project, but the other one to keep idea is text embedding model, which we can perform vector search index as well, in terms of like using it on the data set. So once we are in the playground, there are multiple ways how we can get the code from here. So there are different options here which we can use the code from and use the API. And right now, I'm just asking the OpenAI model, which I'm using the GPT 35 Turbo, 3.5 Turbo. Hi, how are you? And it replies me with a completion text. And as you can see in the code itself, we can directly get the Python code or R code, or as per whatever we want to use. So right now, I'm using the Python code, and it automatically gives us inside the code here. So it is important to make sure that we have the right system messages, which we basically tell AI, okay, hey AI, do the tasks in this way. I want you to reply always in three types of or three variables. The first thing is the index, which we will be using to match the data. The second one is extract the duration of the seconds and give me in this particular format. And the third one is give me a summary prompt which I can use it again for the DALE E3 model to generate my images of UFOs. So here we define those system messages and give it an example as well. Okay, always reply me in this particular format. So one, we update the message, and then if you see, if we are asking this particular question in any chat GPT, obviously it will give some random response every other time, right? But in this case, it will always give us in this particular format, because we have here mentioned always reply me in this particular format. So here it takes the index, which is 2, and from the text, it understands the text and gives us 20 seconds, and it understands the situation of the whole prompt. For example, Chester, England, it is in the circle shape, and green or orange circular disc in 1995. So it gives us a summary prompt which we will again use for the for the DALE E3 model. So it gives us immerse yourself in UFO sighting which happened in Chester, England, and the UFO shape is in a green or orange circular disc. and approximately 20 seconds in October 1995. So this prompt basically gives a broad idea of how the situation is happening, and that is what we will be using again in the DALE 3 model. So I just wanted to make sure if it is giving the completion text in the same format, and it always gives us in the same format. So now we are ready. The AI model is the OpenAI model. The system prompts are ready and everything. So we'll just copy the code and go to Databricks to do some to make the data ready, and then we will pass through the model here. So the second option is also to get the API key here, which we will be using in the other notebooks in the next cells. All right, so we are in the Databricks interface now. And as you can see, we have a notebook here, Aliens AI Showcase. Maybe after the presentation, we can share some notebooks as well if you want to use. And of course, we will be you can use your own AI API key environment variables as well. So in this case, we just started with importing basic libraries like Pandas, OpenAI, and to do some data parsing as well. And as already Vitalija has generated the aliens silver table, that makes my job so easy. So I'm just going to use the aliens silver cleaned table for these tasks. And of course, we want to generate more features that we want to send to the OpenAI model, like the month, the year, and index that we want to add later, we want to match. Yeah. So we are just changing some column types and adding these new features to the data set, which we want the AI to use them to actually give us a better understanding or a better prompt. As you can see, we have 3 new columns, month, year, and index. And we don't want the whole data set to be sent to OpenAI. For example, the longitude or longitude latitude or longitude, we don't want that information because it doesn't like really make sense to send it to OpenAI. So that is why we will be selecting a subset of the columns. In this case, we will be using the index, the city name, country name, shape, the duration for how long we have seen the or the reportants have seen the UFO, and what did they describe the event as, and in which month and year it happened. We are adding these features because we also want to see, for example, in summer, like in the month of April or May, then the imagination of AI it's different, but it is happening in winter. For example, if it is happening in Norway right now, it is snowing a lot. So obviously, it is going to generate an image with snow and those UFO. So and those are the reasons why we use these additional features. And for this particular presentation, we are using a small subset to generate these images, because of course when we use a particular model or OpenAI service, it is going to cost a lot. And since we already have a lot of observations, like 140K, we will be using a very small subset. And as you can see, we are using a particular seed, which means whenever we run this particular seed or random generation, then it will give those specific rows. And here we define some definitions for the further codes, where we define what type of model we want to use, what type of chat model, what type of images model, what are the endpoints, the API keys, which we already defined as the variable here. and what type of versions we want to use, and what after generating the data, what is the data frame that we want. We want the index, the number of seconds, the summary prompt that was used to send to DALE E3 to cross check if the generated image is correct, and then the image URL as well. So here we we run the code to every row of the data set, and here we are also defining particular content where we define, okay, so this is how I want my AI model to function, and this is how I want the response to be. So we are giving it multiple examples as well when we are sending the prompts. And these are the model parameters, and we can tweak these model parameters to uh, to tell AI to function in particular way. And we will know more about these model parameters and how we can tweak them in the further slides. And as if you can see, it runs over the data set that we have, and it returns in a particular format with the index, the seconds, and the prompt that we'll be using to DALE E3 model. Yep. So it takes some time to run over the whole data set. So I just fast forwarded the video for the presentation purpose. And if you can see here, we are taking this particular prompt, immerse yourself in Louisville, USA in 2018, and we got the URL link here of the DALE E3 model which was generated, and if we open that, this is the type of image that was given by the DALE E3 model, and of course we will take a better look what are these images and the prompts and everything in the further slides. So once we got the data frame, we will write that into a delta table here in the aliens schema that we have, or aliens catalog and schema that we have. And if you can see, we will have a new table for this, specifically made for this presentation here, which is aliens AI showcase. And we have all these 4 columns: index, second, summary prompt, and the image URL. All right. The one thing that I was talking about is the model parameters, and if you can see, these are the model parameters which we can tweak inside the code or inside the model to basically tell, okay, AI model, this is how I want it. I want the responses, or this is how I want you to function. So here we are defining the model parameter, and it basically determines the AI model architecture. In this case, we will be using the GPT 3.5 Turbo. Input messages, where we will tell the AI to actually consider or not consider the previous messages. Okay, if you want to consider the conversation history or not. In this case, we are not using it. And temperature, basically it controls the randomness of the responses. In this case, we will be using 0.1 because we want the AI model to always reply or always respond us in a very specific format, and that is why we'll be using 0.1 to 0.1. And max tokens, we can also restrict the model to reply or respond in particular length. In this case, which will be 2000 tokens. And top P, it's also slightly related to the temperature, where we can control the randomness and diversity in the generated text. And frequency penalty and presence penalty, basically these are the texts, these are the parameters which we will be using to tell the AI to repeat or not to repeat the used tokens. And in this case, we are saying 0, no penalty. That means it is free to use the tokens that has already been repeated. Right. So now, since we have the OpenAI generated data that we already have, and the next part is how can we connect this particular table to Power BI? That's the next functionality that we want to look at it. And as of the Microsoft official documentation, we can see there are 6 ways that we can connect Databricks to Power BI. And in this, as part of this presentation, we will be looking at 2 of these ways. One to use connecting the Power BI desktop to the Azure Databricks using the Partner Connect option, and the second one is to connect to Azure Databricks manually inside Power BI desktop. Right. Let's look at a short demo on how we can use the Databricks to Power BI. And if you can see, the first thing is to go to the catalog. And in the catalog, we will be going to this particular schema, which is aliens. And if we are seeing here at this moment, we have a personal cluster, which is my own cluster, Sai Neelakantam. But we cannot see any other option to connect to Power BI. And for that, I have to change it to a serverless cluster, which allows us to use in Power BI. And to use a serverless cluster, we have to go to the SQL warehouses and create this cluster in the SQL warehouses. So once we select the serverless cluster, we can just click on download connection file, which we will be using the file again. But once we open the file, the the connection credentials will be asking for a personal access token, and which is something that we can generate over here as well inside Databricks. So we click on personal access token right here, and here we can generate the new token, which is basically like a secret key. And of course, when I'm selecting it, I do not want to show that in the presentation. So we just like click on the generate new token, and it gives us a secret key. In this case, I'm just using it that has already been generated. And we can use that in the Power BI desktop file that we just downloaded, and use the personal access token and connect to the Databricks automatically. That's the first option. And the second option is connecting to Azure Databricks inside Power BI manually. So here we will be using the get data option. If you are familiar with the Power BI interface, we have a get data button here. And then once we click on that, we will be searching for Azure Databricks. And once we select the Azure Databricks, it has multiple options here, which is the server host name, HTTP path, what are the catalog that we want to use, what is the schema, what is the we can also restrict it to a particular query as well. So I go back to my Databricks here. And this is my personal cluster. So when we are connecting to Databricks inside the Power BI by using the manual function, then we will be selecting these cluster options here. And then once we click on the advanced options, we can see in JDBC or ODBC driver connections, we can have these credentials from server host name, or this server host name, HTTP path, and the other catalog and everything. So once we use this manual connection, we have to make sure that it takes time to open and run this cluster. It is not a serverless cluster, so it will take time to start this cluster, and that is something that we have to keep in mind. What type of use case it is. If we want to use a serverless cluster, or if we want to use a personal cluster. So here I will just once we enter those credentials, we can just use the active Azure Active Directory credentials to connect to the Azure Databricks. All right. So we have covered up how we can use AI to generate the data and how we can fly that to Power BI. But let's look at some facts which you have all been waiting for. What are the Power BI, like what are the figures and facts of UFO? So let's take a quick look at that. So here we have a beautiful report which has this UFO sightings and incidents. Uh, in the UFO sightings, we can see the distribution of the UFO sightings, and as we can see the observations, we have a lot of we have the highest observations in July. But if we see the length of the observations, we have them highest in June. Maybe because they like the summer better. The UFOs could be. And in August as well, we have a highest number of sightings, but we have less number of sightings in Jan, February, in the winter months, but rather than in the summer months. Maybe that is also because people are like people go out more often in the summer, and that is when we get more observation recordings as well. So that can also be that can also be the case. And if we see, we in total we have 140K sightings, and in total we have 564 million seconds. The total UFO sightings, and the least was 1 second, so it was just like this, and the maximum was 98 million seconds. Probably, of course, this is the data that this is the figures or numbers which was given by people like us, right? So, of course, it's not quite sure how much of them is actually the accurate data. But as per the data, we see that it's the maximum, which is 98 million seconds, and average is 86,400 seconds. And of course, in the descriptions, we can see the red bright lights or objects moving here and there. These like are the words or the words in the description. And in the shape, one interesting thing that I was looking at is like, of course, these are like very predictable light triangle oval formation, but I don't know why or how the UFO shape was in a shape of cigar. And 2,500, 2,057 people has reported the cigar shape. So that is something interesting. And if we look at the particular incidents here, so this is the prompt which was generated by AI using these particular using these particular variables. If you can see, immerse yourself intricate in details of UFO sightings in Parksville Lake, Canada in 2003. Picture a mesmerizing scene where a bright orange light hovers above the trees, approximately 300 feet in the air. And the observed light for about 10 minutes, a police helicopter is seen heading towards the location. I was really amazed to actually see how AI is generating on a very specific details, like including the police helicopter, orange light above the trees, and it also kind of understood that it is like 300 meters. So at this moment, the only thing that I can say is it is quite good at understanding the natural text and creating these images. Right. Uh, yep. So that's the short presentation, and I think we are already getting out of time. So I'll just quickly give a short recap of what we have done. We have used the data set from Newfork, and then we have used Azure Data Lake Storage, and then we have used the Medallion architecture of Databricks, And we have gone through 3 layers of bronze, silver, and gold. And then we used AI on top of it using the Gen AI text and image generation model. And then we visualize those insights in Power BI. All right.
At the very end, we want to say thank you for so many people who made this possible. First of all, for Marta, who agreed to mentor us and go through this crazy journey. Then Ares Carr, who has been so supportive throughout all my career and this presentation as well. Brede Serland, who has helped to do the Power BI. Ben, who has not only encouraged us to do this presentation, but also helped us to write official legal email to New Fork. Julia, who has helped in the very beginning and in both of our journeys in Databricks, and Robin, who made it possible that in our work hours we can play with aliens. This is so amazing. But most of all, thank you so much for the New Fork who allowed us to use their data. Without the data, none of this would have been possible. And thank you for all of the support in the people in the chat. We know you had the choice where to go, and thank you so much for choosing us. We hope we have not disappointed you. We are looking forward to your questions and discussion. I believe we don't have that much time for that. But feel free to write us in our social media and tweet about aliens. And maybe don't write me a personal email about your UFO observation. You can report it in New Fork, but everything else is waited. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Here, as Vitalija said, we have just shoot us any questions, connect us on LinkedIn, just scan the QR code. We just found out that we can make a QR for the LinkedIn like this. So just shoot us, connect with us, and let us know if you have anything. And maybe we can connect and share the notebooks or things that we have used through this presentation. Thank you again.